Sicily has always been an intriguing crossroads of cultures and civilizations. Located at the tip of the Italian peninsula, its strategic position in the Mediterranean Sea attracted visitors and invaders alike. Nowadays, the wealth of ancient sites, stunning natural beauty, and family-friendly beaches make Sicily an ideal and unforgettable holiday destination. Over the centuries, Sicily has been part of Greater Greece, a Roman province, a Byzantine stronghold, an Arab caliphate, a Norman kingdom, a pawn for Spain and the Bourbons, and ultimately part of a unified Italy. The vestiges of bygone eras are ever present, so it is no surprise that the island has developed a powerful identity all of its own. So much so that the great German writer Johann Wolfgang von Goethe said that without Sicily, Italy creates no image in the soul. Here is the key to everything. Today, Sicily holds that key. The largest island in the Mediterranean is an explosion of colours and idiosyncrasies that are both enticing and baffling to visitors. But as you stroll past the crumbling ruins, experience the liveliness of the markets as locals go about their everyday business, observe friends playing cards in the town square, and feast on the delectable food the island is renowned for, it is impossible not to be charmed by Sicily. Gardini Naxos was founded in 734 BCE and became the first Greek settlement in Sicily. It was the setting off point for messengers taking news to Greece. Naxos was never a powerful city, but its temple of Apollo Archigetes, protecting deity of all the Greek colonies, gave it prominence in religious affairs. Leontini and Catania were both colonized from here. Hippocrates, tyrant of Gela, captured it in 494 BC. Its opposition to Syracuse ultimately led to its capture and destruction in 403 BC, at the hands of Dionysus the tyrant, after it had supported Athens during that city's disastrous Sicilian expedition. In 1544, following the raids by corsair Khir ed-Din, several military buildings were constructed to protect Cape Sigiso from the Barbary pirates who continued to attack and plunder the coastal villages. Prior to the early 1970s, Giardini Naxos was a quiet fishing village. Now it is a booming tourist destination with attractions including beaches, the panoramic view of the bay and surrounding hills, and its small fishing port. A larger port services cruise ships which arrive regularly. It attracts foreign visitors and Italians alike, many of whom own summer residence in the commune. The seafront is lined with hotels, smaller pensions, pubs, lidos, restaurants and discos. The town of Taormina is situated in the hills above Giardini Naxos, and it can be accessed by car and bus. As you can see from the pictures before you, Kate and I are travelling in the hop-on, hop-off bus this morning, and we're on our way to the high village of Taormina, high in the hills above Giardini Naxos. The road is absolutely chock-a-block with buses, cars, vans and trucks, and it's a road with many dangerous hairpin bends. But the adventure begins here as we head on our way to Taormina, a town in the hills. Well, we're here at Castle Mola after a hair-raising drive up the side of unbelievable steep mountains. Now it's 32 degrees. I kid you not, 32 degrees. And I'm here in the shelter of a large overhang. Castle Mola is a small jewel in the province of Messina. Its name derives from the ancient Norman fortress that represents its symbol and of which few but fascinating ruins remain today. From here, the panorama embraces Etna, the Bay of Giardini Naxos, and the stretch of coast to the south. The ideal tour can start from the historic centre, perhaps with the company of a local guide, who can regale you with myths, legends, and interesting facts that recommend the right spots to try the best of Sicilian cuisine. The urban layout is medieval and very well preserved, divided into a maze of narrow streets, collected squares, and historic churches. Piazza Sant'Antonino is unmissable with its mosaic flooring in white stone and lava stone, and the viewpoint from which to admire the splendid Taormina, but also part of the Ionian coast and Calabria. History and art merge in a place rich in different influences, thanks to the many dominations. Here, the Greek founders were actually succeeded by the Romans, the Arabs and Normans, and more. As you can see off there to my right hand and in front of you, one were to take a fall from where I am right now, they'd need a parachute to go down and get you and retrieve you, what's left of you. But it's 31, 32 degrees. The mother church of Castle Mola is named after St. Nicholas of Bari and overlooks a beautiful square where you can stop before continuing to discover the most hidden glimpses of Castle Mola. At one side of the piazza is a bar called Cafe San Giorgio, which is something of an institution, as it has existed since it was opened by monks in 1700. Both Winston Churchill and Sophia Loren are amongst the many famous people who have visited this cafe and bar. Well folks, it's now 35 degrees. I kid you not. 35 degrees, and we're here in Castle Mola on the Italian island of Sicily. It's pretty hot now. Even here on the peak of a hill, there's little breeze and no reprieve from the scorching, searing heat, but I don't complain about heat. The very highest part of the town of Castle Mola is a rocky outcrop that bears a ruined 16th century castle, reached by a steepish path from the main square here in Castle Mola. The town below the rock is a mass of narrow alleyways, bars and restaurants, and ancient buildings. Now when you come to places like this, And everything is on the summit of a great big volcanic hill. Be prepared for thousands of steps. And in 34, 35 degrees right now, it makes your task that much more difficult. So be aware. Taormina is a hilltop town on the east coast of Sicily. It sits near Mount Etna, an active volcano with trails leading to the summit. The town is known for Teatro Antico di Taormina, an ancient Greco-Norman theatre still used today. Near the theatre cliffs drop to the sea, forming coves with sandy beaches. A narrow stretch of sand connects to Isola Bella, a tiny island and nature reserve. Taormina dates to around 396 BC, after Dionysius I of Syracuse destroyed nearby Naxos in 403 BC, and Sicily formed a new settlement on the nearby Mount Taurus, which gradually grew up into the city of Tor or Emium. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire, Taormina continued to rank as one of the more important towns on the island of Sicily, following the history of Sicily in being ruled by successive foreign monarchs. After the Italian unification, Taormina began to attract well-off tourists from Northern Europe. The area around Taormina was inhabited by the Sicels even before the Greeks arrived on the Sicilian coast in 734 BC to found Naxos in Magna Graecia. After the destruction of nearby Naxos in 403 BC and the foundation of a new settlement on Mount Taurus in 358 BC, Andromachus collected the Naxian exiles together again from all parts of the island. The new settlement seems to have risen rapidly to prosperity and was apparently already a considerable town at the time of Timoleon's expedition in 345 BC. It was the first place in Sicily where that leader landed, having eluded the vigilance of the Carthaginians who were guarding the Straits of Messina, and crossed direct from Rhegium to Taorminium. The city was at that time still under the government of Andromachus, whose mild and equitable administration is said to have presented a strong contrast with that of the despots and tyrants of the other Sicilian cities. He welcomed Timoleon with open arms and afforded him a secure resting place until he was enabled to carry out his plans in other parts of Sicily. Andromachus was not deprived of his position of power when all the other tyrants were expelled by Timoleon, but was permitted to retain it undisturbed till his death. Under the Bourbon dynasty of the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, which lasted until 1860, Taormina did not have a relevant role. However, it obtained an easier access when the Catrabico promontory was partially cut and a seaside road connecting it to Messina and Catania was created. Eventually it received also a station on the second oldest railroad in the region. Travellers, usually well-off northern European men on a sort of grand tour, brought Taormina and especially the ruins of the ancient Greek theatre to international attention. One of the first was Patrick Brydon, who wrote a tour through Sicily and Malta in a series of letters to William Beckford, Esquire, of Summerley in Suffolk, published in 1773. Soon afterwards, Henry Swinburne visited his Travels in Two Sicilies, 1777 to 1780, was published in 1783. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe visited in 1786, but did not publish Italian Journey until 1816. Following the unification of Italy in 1860, a German landscape painter moved to Taormina. Otto Gilling, 1843 to 1939, was one of the first artists to capture the beauties of Sicily, and his exhibitions in Berlin and Paris lured northern Europeans to see for themselves. He married an Italian woman and settled in Taormina, renovating a palazzo into the first full-scale hotel to greet these visitors. In the 1870s, he served as mayor. Charlotte Hood, 3rd Duchess of Bronte, an English woman who had married into a Sicilian dukedom, purchased land in Taormina in 1867. Taormina became high on the list of places to be visited by homosexual northerners, according to Gregory Woods, chair in gay and lesbian studies. Capri had a similar reputation as tolerant of gay men and artists. Well, hello folks, and a very hot stroke warm boiling afternoon here in Sicily. It's 34 degrees and I'm out on a suburb taking a walk. Tomorrow morning early I take on the summit of Mount Etna. Looking forward to that, and have been for a long time. Here on my right hand side you can see olive groves. They're pretty overgrown, but it is just stunning here today. Now there is a very severe thunderstorm forecasted for 2 a.m. in the morning, and a few hours after that I will be heading to the lower slopes of Mount Etna. Here in the olive groves, all you can hear are crickets, but there's the crackling of this intense heat on the vegetation at ground level. I love this island. My first time to Sicily. Now the Sicilian locals probably would think that an Irishman walking in these kind of temperatures is the height of madness, and it probably is. But as I keep reinforcing and reiterating to you all, I don't mind high temperatures, not in the least. All the years living down under acclimatized me to accepting temperatures. I actually worked in 41 degrees. Yep, kid you not. Now folks, an update. It's siesta time here in Sicily. And apart from the odd vehicle or scooter that's passing down the streets here ahead of me, everything is shuttered up, closed down, and they're having their siesta. And I suppose you can't blame them, considering temperatures of 35 degrees can be rather difficult to work in. It's okay being on holidays and I can walk in this no problem. Doesn't matter to me anyway. But I guess if you were living here all the time and you were subjected to temperatures like this from May right up to the end of September, October, I think I too might be persuaded to have a little indoor siesta time at this time of the day. Cast your minds back to some weeks back, 5, 6, 7 weeks, 7 weeks back, when I was speaking to you on a hill about when I know the temperatures are in their high teens, early 30s, early 20s, early 30s. How I know that as beads of perspiration, get it right, Jim, beads of perspiration appear on the back of your hands and on your forearms. We're here on the north slope of Mount Etna. As you can see, we're here at 1,800 meters above sea level, and we're going to go up to just over 3,000 meters, depending on weather and so forth. Sunbeams dancing down the lava flow there behind me, as you can see. It's a wild and woolly place. It's a scary place. Some of the rocks there are just gigantic. Gigantic. Imagine this lava flow right here over my left shoulder, coming at you, and it molten hot, and it claiming everything before it. I suppose there's no need to enlighten you. Woo! Wind. Of course, you can take these wild, large, space-age four-wheel drive vehicles up the lava flows, if that's your thing. Now, as you can see behind me, there's a barrier. There's no vehicles allowed in here unless you're on these four-wheel drive excursion things. But as you see, I'm on foot. Wouldn't this be an absolute terror to see this flow coming at you and you're trapped on the slopes of Mount Etna? So the gods are with me after all. I'm able to explore a bit more here on Etna. Now I'm going up here to a point on the slopes where a hotel was absolutely devoured, literally, by a recent lava flow, and all that's left for you to see today is the ridge at the top of the roof. But there's a photograph to the side which will show you what it was before the lava came and consumed, but people had to make a run for their lives out of here. If you look here, this is what you got. This is what's left of the hotel. The power of nature. This is what it looked like in 2002, and the forest behind it, as you can see, is no longer there. So the before and the after. You can see there mass concrete reinforced with steel was no match for the power of liquid molten lava. This was a hotel. Just take a look at these massive fresh lava flows here in front of you and to my left. The eruption of the Etna volcano in 2002 started the night between the 26th and the 27th of October. This was the start of a very sad historical moment which destroyed the entire tourist site of Piano Provenzana. I've been wanting to come and trek on Etna for a long time. It's now a World Heritage Site. A strong and continuous seismic activity that began around 2200 hours on the 26th of October marks the beginning of the great eruption of North Etna. Walking here in the sunshine this morning, it is indeed an adventure and a great privilege to be able to get on to what this can be, a truly terrifying place during, after an eruption. As you can see, it consumes the forest. Mature pine trees, chestnut trees, etc., consumed like matchsticks. All that's left is the charred, burned out trunk of majestic pine trees, fodder for a molten lava. After a sudden stop, the volcano takes a breath and starts again with a continuous seismic tremor to form long series of lateral and linear mouths called bottoniera that affected the northeast rift. Fractures that quickly, one after another, began to make puffs of lava and strong emission of ash. Now the machines have to be brought onto this north slope after a lava flow, because the trackway becomes totally devoured by the lava. Now I'm only going to show you snippets of my trek on these mountains, this mountain this morning. It's a long hike. A long hike. Now some of these lava flow trails are probably 15 meters in height. It just gives you an idea of the volume of hot molten rock comes from the center of the earth. Just take a look at this. Quickly, the lava started from 2,500 meters, covering the area of Piano Provenzana, and began to destroy the first souvenir stores at base camp. Now there's a panoramic view forever to remember. The mountainside, scarred to the core from hot lava. The power of the volcano, however, does not stop and continues with the opening of the last crater at an altitude of 2,100 meters. It was from this point that began the lava flow that completely erased the entire tourist area of Piano Provenzana. Rapidly, the river of incandescent lava covered hotels, restaurants, stores, snowplows, ski slopes, roads, and began its descent towards the Pineto Ragabu, towards Linguandlasso. In the meantime, in Linguandlasso, there were moments of apprehension and panic both for the continuous seismic activity that continued unceasingly, and to see that incandescent lava river getting closer and closer to their town. In the meantime, at high altitude, mechanical vehicles arrived to try to contain and control this mass of fire that was rapidly descending towards the Ragabo forest, and had already interrupted the Maraneve connection between Lingua Glassa and Fornazo, destroying everything it came across. Dramatic sunbeams dancing across the landscape, a landscape that's been burned and charred to bits. Billions upon billions upon billions and tons of cold lava now forming new landscapes. Rich soil, of course, so I suppose within a few years you'll have green vegetation growing on these parts until the next fresh lava flow beckons and makes its way south from the summit of Mount Etna. Now folks, here on my right hand side and in front of you is a boulder as big as a Mini Cooper. That would have travelled down from up there, whether in the air at high altitude or in a lava flow, but it's come down many miles to where it now rests in peace here. But it is some chunk of lava, a couple of ton at least. But take a look at the panorama there behind me with the moving cloud as it drifts from my right to left. It's a spectacular place, a place of fearsome danger, awesome beauty. Quite cold now at 7 degrees, yes, 7 degrees, but it is some place. There's no doubt it's a World Heritage Site now. Now if you can hear me, down there to your left is a beautiful green forest. Straight in front of you is a 1-year-old lava flow that consumed, as I said previously, majestic pine trees, hazel trees. Mount Etna at the present is 3,059 meters, I think, or 3,359 meters above sea level. But when you look at the volume of ash and dust and magma that's around the place, now hardened, it's not difficult to see how something can be added to in altitude. Just take a look. After a few kilometers, the lava began to flow into the bottom of the Sciambro, the only stream that descends from Etna to the valley. Here, the Italian army immediately started an intervention by creating with mechanical means a huge sandbank inside the turret, so as to slow down the flow towards Lingua Glasso. But nature decided after 10 days to stop and get to only 50 meters of this embankment. In this period, the lava destroyed about 250 hectares of centuries-old pine forest, oak woods, and the entire tourist area of Piana Provenzana, in addition to all the damage that other structures and roads on the northern side incurred by the earthquake. The lava flow stopped just 5 kilometers from the town of Lingua Glassa after 10 days of that fatal October the 27th. After years, the eruption of 2002 is called by scholars the perfect eruption, just for how the eruptive activity has developed, by creating eruptive fractures, formation of spectacular pyroclastic cones, explosive activity and ash fallout for months, threatening lava flows on both flanks of the volcano. Eruptions of Etna follow multiple patterns. Most occur at the summit, where there are 5 distinct craters: the northeast crater, the Voragine crater, the Bocca Nuova crater, and 2 at the southeast crater complex. Other eruptions occur on the flanks, which have more than 300 vents ranging in size, from small holes in the ground to large craters like you see here, which are hundreds of meters across. Here on the north face, about 2,300 meters above sea level, it was here on my trek to the summit that I met many tourists who had come up on 4-wheel drive excursions and expeditions, and it was here that everybody mingled. This was an exceptionally dangerous place. The wind, as you can hear on the video, was howling, but when you get up between the newly opened craters, you have probably 2 meters of ground between a fall of many kilometers behind you and a crater maybe 12 or 1600 meters deep in front of you. Many people had to kneel down on the ground to support themselves and brace themselves against the howling wind and the cold to take their photograph. But it was a scary place, a really scary place. And many people didn't venture from the track to where we are right now. But it was an adventure, but a dangerous place. Summit eruptions can be highly explosive and spectacular, but rarely threaten the inhabited areas around the volcano. In contrast, flank eruptions can occur down to a few hundred meters altitude, close to or even well within inhabited areas. Numerous villages and small towns lie in or on cones of flank eruptions. Since the year AD 1600, at least 60 flank eruptions and countless summit explosives have occurred. Nearly half of these have happened since the start of the 20th century. Since 2000, Etna has had 4 flank eruptions in 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 and 9. Summit eruptions occurred in 2006, 7, 8. January 2012, July and October 2012, December 2018, and again in February 2021. Volcanic activity first took place at Etna about 500,000 years ago, with eruptions occurring beneath the sea off the ancient coastline of Sicily. About 300,000 years ago, volcanism began occurring to the southwest of the summit, the center top of the volcano. Then activity moved towards the present center 170,000 years ago. Eruptions at this time built up the first major volcanic edifice, forming a stratovolcano in alternating explosive and effusive eruptions. The growth of the mountain was occasionally interrupted by major eruptions, leading to the collapse of the summit to form calderas. From about 35,000 to 15,000 years ago, Etna experienced some highly explosive eruptions, generating large pyroclastic flows, which left extensive ignimbrite deposits. Ash from these eruptions has been found as far away as south of Rome border, which is 800 kilometers to the north. Now folks, as you can see, it's surreal here. We're at 2,857 meters. 2,857 meters. This is a major crater here. Mount Etna. We're at the summit, just short of the summit of Mount Etna.
And the southeast the west side. And here, this one. And this is ash. This is ash.
So you guys took it by manual? Is it not dangerous?
Yes, it's dangerous.
Of course it's dangerous. Why don't you set a camera that you can take it automatically?
Folks, it's 6 degrees here, and the volcanologist just told me that, showed me on an app actually on his phone, that there is movement on the ground. The line is turning from green to red, and it is possible within the next 2 days to have an eruption of some sort, an explosion or an eruption. So it might only be escape of gas. But he showed me some footage from his personal equipment, and oh my goodness me, these explosions and eruptions are just violent. So I'm 2,800 meters and a little bit above sea level here, and that's the summit of Mount Etna just there behind me. And here at the summit of Mount Etna, the weather is appalling. It's lashing rain and the fog is pretty intense. Where I am right now on the summit of Mount Etna, this is as far as you can go altitude wise for safety reasons. This is the north face. The east face at the moment is quite active, but this is the maximum height that you can get to on Mount Etna at the present. Along here in this horrendous weather, I'm walking on what is sort of volcanic aggregate. But here in front of me is the fine ash, and you can see the difference on the fine ash. It's like coarse sand, really abrasive. Speaking to the volcanologist, it is here on this surface in front of you right now that NASA brought their lunar landing craft, various prototypes to be tested out, because he said that this would be the closest to lunar landscape. And he showed me some video and still photography from the NASA crew time here on the summit of Mount Etna.
And you can see just here the first crater forming in the 2002 eruption. And the activity started just here and then got down, and the fracture formed for 2 kilometers, and then on the new fracture, the new vents, and formed 28 craters.
Well, I'm standing here in appalling weather. The smell of sulfur. And the crater behind me was the crater that opened up in 2001. Folks, on the summit of Mount Etna on a bitterly cold morning, but not raining anymore. You can see it's a spectacular but violent place, a sort of scary, to be quite honest about it. Mount Etna, 2,800 and a few meters above sea level.
To the steep. Crater smoke. This one is the first crater of the 2002 eruption. But the crater up there, come here. Was cold.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not smoking.
There, they control the temperature and the composition of the steam.
Thousands of years ago, the eastern flank of the mountain experienced a catastrophic collapse, generating an enormous landslide in an event similar to that seen in 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. The landslide left a large depression in the side of the volcano known as Val de Bove, Valley of the Ox. Research published in 2006 suggested this occurred around 8,000 years ago and caused a huge tsunami, which left its mark in several places along the eastern coast of the Mediterranean. Well now folks, we've cleared the bad weather and the scenery is just magnificent. Pity it wasn't dry for the early part of this trip. The steep walls of the valley have suffered subsequent collapses on numerous occasions. The strata exposed in the valley walls provide an important and easily accessible record of Etna's eruptive history. The most recent collapse event at the summit of Etna is thought to have occurred about 2,000 years ago, forming what is known as the Piano Caldera. This caldera has been almost entirely filled by subsequent lava eruptions, but is still visible as a distinct break in the slope of the mountain near the base of the present-day summit cone. Mount Etna is moving towards the Mediterranean Sea at an average of 14 millimeters per year. The massive sliding on an unconsolidated layer above the older sloping terrain. The temperature dropped down to 7 degrees here on Mount Etna. It's quite breezy now, but the cloud is dissipating, but it's some surreal landscape up there ahead of me. Unbelievable. This was a bucket list request of mine for a long time, so here I am today. Now if you look up there, just there, that's where I was earlier in the rain at the summit. The first known record of eruption at Etna is that of Diodorus Siculus. In 396 BCE, an eruption of Etna reportedly thwarted the Carthaginians in their attempt to advance on Syracuse during the Second Sicilian War. A particularly violent explosive Plinian summit eruption occurred in 122 BCE and caused heavy tephra falls to the southeast, including the town of Catania, where many roofs collapsed. To help with reconstruction after the devastating effects of the eruption, the Roman government exempted the population of Catania from paying taxes for 10 years. Well folks, this has truly been an experience of a lifetime. Even the weather was appalling. We began at 26, 27 degrees in the morning, and it's dropped down to 6 and 7 degrees when we got to the top of Mount Etna. The cloud cover was pretty intense and the rain was torrential, but the sun has come out and the fog is blown away. But there's some spectacular scenery up here now. The atmospherics, the craters. There's a crater right up there a few miles that opened up in 2001. Incredible. During the first 1500 years CE, many eruptions went unrecorded, or records have been lost. Among the more significant are an eruption in about 1030 CE near Monte Lise on the lower south flank, which produced a lava flow that travelled about 10 kilometres, reaching the sea north of Assyria. The villages of Santa Tecla and Stazo were built on the broad delta built by this lava flow into the sea. An eruption in about 1160 from a fissure at only 350 to 450 metres elevation on the southeast flank village of Mascalucia, whose lava flow reached the sea just to the north of Catania, in an area now occupied by a portion of the city named Ognina. As Europe's most active volcano, eruptions occur frequently, with as many as 16 eruptions taking place in 2001. However, several eruptions of note have occurred over the last century. A major eruption took place in June 1923, lasting from the 6th of June until the 29th of June. A large lava flow from an eruption in 1928 led to the destruction of a population centre for the first time since the 1669 eruption. The power of nature is indeed incredible. Looking up onto the horizon, through the pine forest, you can see the new lava flow as it meanders and snakes its way through beautiful scenic valleys. Of course, new mountains form. He was telling me that in the past few years, Etna has increased in height by 31 meters. So it's increasing all the time. But you can see this flow here to my right is an incredible flow, and it's very fresh. You look at the color of it. In February 2022, there were two eruptions. On the 11th of February 2022 at 6 p.m, there were lava fountains from the southeast crater, which became a single Strombolian eruption by 7 p.m. Between 10 and 11 p.m, it had reached a height of almost 1,000 meters, and lava bombs were thrown at a considerable distance. Ash was blown west by the wind and turned southeast. There was a large lava flow in the western flank. On the 19th of February at 10:15 a.m, there was an explosive eruption, again from the southeast crater. High lava fountains and lava flows, the longest of which went down the northeastern flank towards Bove Valley. Etna erupted once again on the 4th of July 2024, causing Catania Airport to close due to volcanic ash in the air. The airport reopened the next day. Then on August the 14th, 2024, Mount Etna erupted violently, sending an ash cloud 9.5 kilometers into the atmosphere. Catania Airport was forced to close the following day